Why am I so lazy? Why can't that guy stop drinking alcohol? Why is she so sad all the time? Why do I think the way I do? These are all incredibly complicated questions with an innumerable number of factors affecting them. Though we tell ourselves we have complete control over every action and thought we have, there are a number of curious biological forces that underpin everything. These forces are detailed in Pleased to Meet Me by Professor Bill Sullivan and are introduced in this video. Let's start with our genes. DNA is the blueprint for our bodies. It dictates our physical appearances such as hair or eye color, but DNA influences some surprising things. For example, a potential disdain for broccoli. Our tongues have taste buds, each containing cells with receptors for taste. Specific molecules in foods bind to certain receptors, which our brains interpret as having a taste. One family of genes, called taster, make receptors for bitter foods. Taster 38, in particular, produces a receptor which binds to phenylthiourea, a bitter compound found in many vegetables such as broccoli. So-called supertasters make a version of taster 38, which is extra responsive to this compound, making it unbearably bitter. DNA is involved with alcohol use as well. Researchers have found variants of certain genes to be associated with alcoholism, and Ozzy Osbourne has a mutation in the gene ADH4 that may help his liver detoxify alcohol more efficiently than others. If you're a, quote, lightweight, you might have a variant of the enzyme CYP2E1, which causes you to process alcohol faster. DNA could even play a role in how we pick a partner. A classic study from 1995, where women were asked to smell 2-day-old t-shirts worn by men, found that the women preferred scents from t-shirts worn by men who had complementary immune system genes. If the man had similar immune system genes, she found the scent to be less attractive. But DNA is not the whole story. Epigenetics describes the set of markers which turn genes on or off. Two people may have the same genes, but the genes might be expressed differently due to chemical modifications which make them more or less accessible. Due to the lack of food during the Dutch famine in World War I, it is thought that babies in their mother's wombs were having their DNA epigenetically programmed to express genes that maximize calorie extraction. These changes were great for famine, but not so great in modern times of abundance, as many of their children and grandchildren became prone to obesity and diabetes. Children who suffer early trauma have the genes for their glucocorticoid receptor silenced. The receptor is needed to sweep up cortisol, a stress hormone. With diminished glucocorticoid receptors, children can't remove that excess stress hormone and grow up with higher rates of violence, depression, and suicide. Just like epigenetics can affect our genes, our environment can affect our brain in surprising ways. A group of Manchester United fans were given a questionnaire about the team and its loyal fans. Afterwards, they were told to walk to another building, and along the way, an actor pretended to fall and cry out in pain. If the actor was wearing a Man U shirt, nearly every fan offered assistance. If he had a regular shirt on, about 1/3 of the fans helped him. If he had the shirt of their arch rivals, the legendary Liverpool Football Club, even fewer of those fans bothered to help. Our brains are just wired for these irrational us versus them divisions of tribal unity. But if the initial questionnaire was instead about the camaraderie of soccer fans in general, the Man U fans were more likely to help the Liverpool fan as compared to when they were primed with the original survey. Our actions are susceptible to these seemingly trivial factors. A judge is more likely to deny parole if a case is heard right before lunch. We're more likely to judge strangers as being cold if we're holding a cold drink, and warm if we're holding a warm drink. The presence of the Apple logo is associated with being more creative when solving puzzles, and we're more likely to buy Italian wine if Italian music is playing in the shop. But perhaps the strangest influence comes from the trillions of bacteria, or microbiota, that live in our body, especially in our gut. Researchers took sterile mice, which tend to be scrawny and stressed out, and in a wonderfully appetizing experiment, transplanted some germy material to them from the intestines of normal mice. These now germy mice grew about 30% more fat, not because they ate more, but because their new bacterial buddies could help them extract more nutrients. When given bacteria from genetically obese mice, the sterile mice gained up to 50% more fat. In humans, Twins with wildly different weights were found to have different ratios of bacterial species in their guts. People living in different parts of the world also have different bacteria in their guts, and changes in diet have been shown to change the prevalence of various species. It might seem hard to imagine how bacteria in our gut could affect our brain. One way might be through their production of neurotransmitters, like serotonin. Depending on the types of bacteria in our guts and the compounds they produce, our behavior could be wildly different. These bacteria may even be involved with clinical depression. Sterile rats who were given intestinal bacteria from human patients with depression became more anxious and were less interested in sweets, as compared to sterile rats who were colonized with bacteria from non-depressed patients. All of these findings came from a book titled Pleased to Meet Me: Genes, Germs, and the Curious Forces That Make Us Who We Are. It's by Professor Bill Sullivan, who has contributed to this channel before, and who is an expert on another parasite found in kitten poop, gardens, and our own brains, which is implicated in behavior changes, named Toxoplasma gondii. I highly recommend you check it out. It's published by National Geographic Books and will be out on August 6th, though it can be pre-ordered now. Links can be found in the description below, and be sure to hit that subscribe button as well on your way over.